Hey, this is Jesse from American Arson.
And this is Evan, and you are listening to the KingdomCore Podcast.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the KingdomCore Podcast. I'm your host, Sean.
And I'm Chris.
There he is. How's it going, man?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Good, man. Good. We just had a really fun interview.
We did.
We interviewed. Who'd we interview, Chris?
The American Flame Boys.
You don't want to call them that. You do not want to call them that.
Okay. Is that something I don't know?
Maybe Flame Boys means something different in Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know what. Okay, anyways. American Arson.
American Arson.
The pretty legit rock duo on Facedown Records. Mm-hmm. Our favorite label, of course.
Mm-hmm. Obviously.
And yeah, it was a fun conversation about
As always.
A really great album.
Yes. If you guys are not familiar with American Arson, make yourselves familiar with them. They are definitely one of the better rock bands in the whole Christian scene over the past, honestly, decade. And they're not like your typical Christian rock, which is why I tend not to call them Christian rock, even though they're a rock band and they're Christian. They don't sound like every other Christian rock band. They have like more
they're
punk.
Not a Skillet or a Red or
they're not that hard rock new metal stuff. They're like they've got like a punk edge to them, hardcore influenced as well. Very aggressive, gravelly rock. So definitely check them out.
And yet most of the time still super catchy.
Oh gosh, Evan knows how to write a chorus.
Yeah, definitely like radio worthy, but better than most radio rock.
Definitely. Exactly. Yeah. But so they're on Facedown. They just dropped a new album. It's called Sand and Cinder, Tied in Timber. Say that 5 times fast.
Sand and Cinder, Tied in Timber.
See, you can't do it. Chris is choking on his words over here. No, but really awesome conversation. I know we say that a lot. I've been a big fan of these guys since 2020, since they dropped since like, what was it, 2018, 2019 when they got signed?
Yeah, and they dropped the like 2 singles with the like 30-second interlude in the middle.
Yeah. And so
Rise and Fall. That was
Rise and Fall. That's it.
Yeah.
Great single, by the way.
I even have a physical copy of that, and it's like
they made physical copies of that.
Yeah, it's like it's literally one of those like little
Chris just burned
sleeves.
the CD himself.
Yeah,
no, but they've been one of my favorites since I discovered them, and I knew as soon as they dropped their 2020 record, A Line in the Sand, and we started this podcast in 2021, I couldn't wait for the day that they would release new music so we can have them on the show. And
we talk about why there was a little bit of a delay in that.
Oh yeah. Really crazy story. We talked about Evan's favorite non-deciduous trees.
Our favorite
trees.
Road trip gas station food.
Yes, lots of fun. The interview got turned on us, which is always fun when that happens. But no, Jesse and Evan, the 2 band members, they are fantastic people. We love them. They're brothers of the KingdomCore crew. We were just very grateful that they came on and shared about the new record.
Absolutely. And before we hop into that, we got our podcast review to quickly read, and also a shout out to our patron supporters. So actually we'll do that first. We love you guys and we're so thankful for your support. So we got our core givers: Fabian Richter, Daniel Harding, Steve Michalowski, Anthony Kuchma, Frankie Blocker, and Aaron Peter. All of you guys have been with us for so long. And our true fans, the Dead Pedal Coffee Company as usual, and our newest true fan member, Robert Heck.
Hey, watch the language.
That is me watching the language. No, but if you guys go and check out Robert Heck Music, he has some stuff out on streaming services. I dig it. It's kind of like a hard rock, electric kind of stuff. Definitely check it out. Yeah, maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised like I was. And we have our review from Hurricane, spelt kind of weird. We'll have it up on the video version you can see here. This was left in March of this year. One of the best. Found both of these guys on Instagram first. Couldn't be more thankful for what they do. I love metal and have really been trying to find more Christian metal bands. So over the last year, these dudes have recommended so many new bands. No coincidence that I found them. And then a little cross emoji. The podcast is just icing on the cake. Great discussions, interviews with the guys from some of the bands I love. All good stuff. Thank you for what you guys do. Well, thank you, Hurricane.
Chris, I think we've already read that one.
Have we?
I think we have. Because I remember.
There's too many. I was skimming through them.
If we've already read that, well, then we appreciate that doubly.
And also, if we have, and I somehow doubled up on that, that means more of you guys need to go leave reviews.
Exactly.
On
there we
Apple
go.
Music Podcasts or Apple Podcasts. Leave a written review. Rate us 5 stars, and we'll definitely give it a shot.
Definitely.
All right. Let's hop into the interview.
Oh, my gosh. That's so funny.
It'll just start with us laughing and
That's the best intro every time.
It is. And everyone's just like, I wonder what they were talking about.
you listener, we were talking about you.
Know. They'll never know.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here, guys.
Absolutely.
Been very excited to have you guys on. I've been a huge fan of American Arson since I discovered you guys back in, 2019 when you signed?
Yeah.
But when you guys... when Chris and I started this podcast a couple of years ago, I was like, man, I cannot wait for American Arson to release a new record so that we could have you guys on. So really great to have you guys.
We made you guys wait maybe a little too long.
Years.
But so the new record, Sand and Cinder, Tide and Timber, I had to read it. That came out last Friday. What's the response been to it like so far?
Incredible. I think I like the fan base, like the whole KingdomCore family and like the whole Facedown family, like everybody that follows us on socials has been like giving us a great response. Everybody loving it. Like everybody has their favorites. Like I think that's been, we didn't get like the mainstream traction and like attention that we got with like Unbreakable when our first album came out and all that. But even talking with Jason, and for those who are listening, or that he's the guy that runs Facedown, like he like made it a huge reminder to me, at least. I feel like Evan could concur on this. Like we've had a better response on the fan side of things this time around, but less like numbers wise. And it's been kind of a reality check for us, and but in a good way. Like, so it's been more fulfilling, I think, honestly, which is great.
Yeah. And it's only been out for a week now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there's still time for.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's what a record.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
guys.
good.
Do you guys have a favorite off of it?
Yes, actually. Well,
I was afraid you were going to ask.
It's
4, 3.
It's a favorite 3, honestly. Like
Same.
The Heat trilogy is just
Okay.
That's
it stuck with me. Like when I was listening to the album in full, I'm just like, these tracks. Like I listened to them so much when they first came out. They're just so incredibly catchy, and then the message throughout those tracks is just spot on. Quick question, I'll bring it up now. I just sent Sean this note earlier. Heat 3 begins with something, and I want to know if the inspiration was actually that. To me, it sounds very much like The Mandalorian. like soundtrack? Was
Are you
that
talking about
an intentional thing?
the synth?
Yeah, like
I
it
did-
sounds
I
like
hadn't-
to me.
I hadn't made
I know
that.
it's not a direct, but
No, I hadn't
There
made that
is-
connection, but that's pretty cool. To now that you say that,
it like as soon as I heard it, I'm like, dude, that sounds like the Mandalorian theme or whatever.
it has that. It's tonally very. That synth is really similar.
Yeah.
No, we had the. Go ahead, Jesse.
I was going to say there is a nod to another one of our mutuals, especially my favorite shows. That's getting ready to launch a 5th season on there that no one's quite caught yet. So I'm waiting for it.
Is that
Yeah, I don't think anybody's
Stranger
going to.
Things?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. There's
Wait, which song is it in Goodbye?
No, it's in Gaslight.
Okay, somewhere else. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll have to figure
it's in
that out.
Gaslight. So if
All
somebody
right, get
finds
to
that-
hunting,
Little
guys.
nod for all you to go try and find.
Yeah, if you send us, if you mail us your guess, we will mail you back
A vinyl.
physical correspondence. No,
We haven't even gotten
we'll mail
a
you
vinyl
back.
yet.
We'll mail you back small packets of candy that we've been accruing from Sweetwater over the years. Every time, for people who don't know, every time you order a piece of music gear from Sweetwater, they send you a small packet of candy, and I've been saving them up for the last like 13 years. And so if you get it right, I'm gonna send in bulk all of the candy.
13-year-old, nothing like a 13-year-old Laffy Taffy.
Expired banana Laffy Taffies and
it's
Tootsie Rolls.
aged Laffy Taffy.
Yeah, aged. Yeah, mold Tootsie Rolls.
Oh gosh. Oh man. I'd say
Fermented-
my
fermented
favorites.
Tootsie Rolls. Sorry, just gotta keep going.
No,
with that.
you're all good. To answer your question, Jesse, my 3 favorites, I'm going to go in no particular order. Arrowheads, Adversity, and Blood. Those are my 3 favorites.
Oh, okay.
Yep, you picked out my two of my favorites. I would
Yeah,
say.
which ones?
Arrowheads for
and
sure.
Blood.
I know you guys posted
Arrowhead.
that. You both were like,
Let's talk about that song just straight up. What's the inspiration for that song? Take us through the meaning of that track, how you guys, like any inspiration behind like the actual musical writing of it, just any of that story.
For Blood or
Oh, sorry, for Arrowheads.
Arrowheads? Yeah. Cool. Evan, you can probably speak to that.
Yeah. So lyrically, is the first verse is sort of like a thesis statement, I think, for the song. The first verse and the pre-chorus is kind of like laying down. I mean, it almost kind of like breaks that wall of saying I need an admonition song. Like it was a song that for me I needed to write. It was really important to write. I think it came out on with our debut full length with A Line in the Sand. It came out right before the world shut down, COVID and all of that stuff. And there was sort of like a feeling of victory that I was experiencing in that time, just in a lot of areas in life, and had just gotten married and felt unbreakable. That's a big part of the song, and then things come along that you feel like challenged by, and you wonder like, was that feeling of victory like naive? And so it dealt with that a lot on Low Tide, and that's why I mean it might have felt like a strange choice to some people for Low Tide and Arrowheads to be back to back, but it was really important for me for those two to be back to back on the album, because they're almost like a story that's connected. So if you go back to the beginning of Low Tide, you kind of get like the beginning of that. It could have been a part 1, part 2 thing, but we just kind of like, we already did that, so we're not going to do it again.
just do a second trilogy in there.
Yeah. So Low Tide kind of picks up where Unbreakable leaves off, and just kind of some of those feelings of was I naive, and then just the way that hit me, the way that time period hit me specifically was difficult, and I know it was difficult for a lot of people, and a lot of people lost way more than I lost during it. So I don't want to go into all the details, but yeah, for me it was really, really important to have a victory song like come right after that, and I mean, we can go line by line on the whole thing, but I guess it's just, yeah, it's a theme, just kind of it's like just this ebb and flow, kind of Unbreakable is an up, and then Low Tides is down, and then Arrowheads is an up, and and then Adversity later in the record kind of ties those themes together. So, and I guess musically, just trying to, it was the last song. Probably shouldn't even have been on the album because I was working on what would have been the last song. And then got the idea for Arrowheads, started working on that and went that direction instead. And just, it's in a completely different tuning from the rest of the songs. Goes a different direction from the rest of the songs. We kind of have the little like synthwave first verse going on. The first time that I sent the demo to the producer, I think he was confused. He was like, "This is weird." But then the more that we worked on it, he started to kind of like see where I was coming from, and picked it up. And I mean, one of the things musically from with that song that was a really tough decision was to not go back to the chorus a third time, because I think this is my favorite chorus that we've ever written. We didn't go back to it a third time because it was so important to me to have that big like declarative spoken word / scream part at the end, where we're really kind of wrapping the thing up and laying down, I guess sort of like my core belief of where I kind of ended up at the end of that. So that was tough for me. I feel like it probably broke some rules there, and maybe it could have been a more popular single if we went back to the chorus a third time. But
I just remember trying to verbalize what I wanted for those electronic drums to Alec when we were on one of the drum days. I was like, no, like a but faster. But you know what I'm trying to say? And then you want to make someone feel humble. It's like try and verbalize drums into like a communicative language, and you immediately just both sound like idiots. Like it levels the playing field with anyone in the industry. So, but no, that it means a lot more to me personally. Obviously, from message wise, there's a couple of songs on this album, that being one of them, that when Evan first sent me the demo ideas and sketches for him, even before the lyrics had been in the music we had fully fleshed out, I immediately just got super emotional over. It was a really dark time in my life when I was struggling with a lot of things personally when we were writing and making the album over the course of that year, and that was one of them, that and Blood. And Arrowhead specifically felt, even before he even just said that, and it's funny to hear him, this is the first time we've sat down and kind of in an interview setting kind of analyze these, where he's like, it was meant to be kind of this victory song. That's exactly what it felt like to me, even before we had all the lyrics fleshed out and in front of us. It felt like that, even just musically, going into that chorus and stuff like that. I think that was the first lyrics I heard from it. And it was just super empowering. And I now that you say that, we might just have to change it up live and go back to that chorus a third time. So I don't know. It's too good.
Yeah, I really dig the some of the experimental choices you guys did on this with a lot of that electronic stuff throughout. It all sounds very different, and it's a slightly different direction from A Line in the Sand, which I think it turned out really great. I know some people get thrown off by that type of stuff in rock or metal, but I'm like especially the intro to Moonlight, it just sounded so different, but it was
we
so
were
cool.
nervous releasing the Heat trilogy first. People are going to be like, what is this?
Yeah. But honestly, I think it's a cool, different thing. It's good, but it's different, and it's, it balances out that way to me.
Thanks. Yeah, I think I always had this fear, growing up, when I really realized that I wanted to do music, and that this was going to be something that was super important to me and something that I saw myself doing for my whole life. I had this fear in the back of my head that it was never going to be able to pay the bills. Music was never going to be able to be the number one thing. And, that felt like that was going to be the way that was going to be a failure, right? If music couldn't pay the bills, if music wasn't the number one thing, that was going to be the failure. And now it's kind of funny because if music was the thing paying the bills, maybe a song like Moonlight doesn't get on this record, because I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like. I want people to like this. Obviously, I'm human. Like, we're releasing these songs to people, and we do like. I'm never going to be like, oh, I don't care what people think. Like, obviously, we care what people think about the record. We want people to love the record, but knowing that like I don't have to like worry about whether I can pay my mortgage based on the success of this record. Dude, if I like something, if I have an idea in my head that seems super cool to me, whether it feels like this is, you know, an American Arson quote unquote track, or whether this is like something that's in our wheelhouse or something that is done in this genre of music, I don't care. If I like it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't like it, the stakes are not incredibly high. I'm not getting foreclosed on because somebody doesn't like Moonlight. So
Yeah.
I think it's funny. I wish I could have had that perspective when I was younger, that like there's actually a great freedom, and it's a huge blessing, you know, to have as much as we would love to be able to do this a little bit more than we can do it. It is a huge blessing to not have to worry about it, not have the pressure of that, where I know some artists are always looking over their shoulder and always wondering like, oh, how is this going to be received? Like, how is this going to sell? And for us, I think it gives us an avenue to be authentic, because we don't have to rely on that. And I think it lends to better art, at least in our
100%.
case.
Yeah. And huge shout out, exactly, took the words out of my mouth, but like huge shout out to Facedown on that too. Like there's such a negative connotation in the industry in general about record labels, especially ones that have had like a certain amount of success in any genre or scene. And a lot so in like the punk or hardcore scenes and stuff like that. And we used to be honest, like we having friends that are in bands way bigger than us that had awful experiences, used to be one of those bands like early on in our forming, like, oh, we'll never sign to a label, like we got to keep this 100% independent. And like I probably say this in every interview we do, and like whether or not we were signed to them still currently, which I hope we are for the rest of our days, like I would say the same thing. Like I cannot say enough good things about like Jason and Virginia and the entire Facedown team of giving us that freedom too, because we like this album was we joke about how long it took us to put out new music, but we were probably working on this album for a year and a half. There was a computer that crashed that lost the entire set of demos that we had originally written for this album, and so we had to start from scratch. And then, like Evan was alluding to there, like this isn't our full-time thing. We both have full-time careers. He's been married. I'm now getting married. Like we have lives, we have families. And so like there's just so much going on that we would like write a song here, like go in and do a night session with our producer here, but then neither of us would have a day off for like 3 weeks. And so it took us a better part of a couple years to write and record this record. And the entire time, like me, like being the worrier that I am, or just wanting to have everything pulled together, I would like text Jason, like, I'm so sorry, man. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll have something to you. And like, they are so kind and understanding, and even creatively, like, dude, I hope you like this. Like, here's the first demo. Like, you know, it's different. And he was like, man, don't you explain this to me? Like, this is so rad. Like, it's going to be different. Like, people are going to love it. Like, you know, it'll be great for us to put something like this out. Like, they are so like, they strive for excellence and they push us to be the best in different areas. But it was so freeing on a personal level to have, you know, Evan, like as a bandmate, want to kind of loosen the chains and say, you know what, let's just write music that we like let's make music that we like stylistically, but also to have a label that's constantly reassuring us of like, hey, you guys do your thing, we trust you, send us the record, and people are gonna love it.
Yeah, and I think as a fan, from both Sean and I feel like could agree on this, is that Facedown, like part of why we're such big fans is because it seems like they have that family aspect, and like they really seem to back all the artists they sign. But then when it comes to the rock artists, like I don't know what it is, but it's like every single rock album that comes out on Facedown is like 10 out of 10 amazing. Like it's like
It's true.
It's so funny. Like every single rock album is great, and I think people sleep on that. They think Facedown is the metalcore, hardcore. You know, there's the few like super extreme metal stuff, but it's always the rock stuff that just incredible. So you guys are I feel like you have 2 albums in that elite category now.
Oh,
so.
thanks, man.
Yeah, 100%. And
that's the taking compliments. So,
oh man, I'm so glad you brought that up, Jesse, about the laptop crashing, because I heard about that. I remember, Evan, when that happened, I remember you like had posted about it, trying to like figure out how to get into the laptop and all of that.
Right.
And
yeah, I do remember that.
I've never heard of this happening to a band while like post recording some songs. So I guess my first question is like, what exactly happened? And then number 2, like, did you guys remember what you had written? Were you guys able to replicate again, or did you literally start from ground zero again, like with no memory of like how to rewrite those songs? Like how much of it was finished, I guess, when you lost it?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of it was just stupidity, because like, why do I not have this backed up? Like, I'm sitting here at my desk right now with 2 like giant external drives sitting right there. And you know, nowadays it's like a weekly thing. I just, you know, push everything from my laptop desktop over to the external drives. But yeah, it was as simple as that. I didn't have it backed up. Only one of the songs had already been mixed down and like sent to Jesse. So our writing process is kind of like, we, you know, as a 2-person band, it's not really time efficient to like just get in a room and just like sit there and jam. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So we put together skeleton demos that are probably a little bit more fleshed out than, you know, it's not just like a guitar line. I kind of try to go through the whole thing. And then, you know, I usually get Jesse a version that doesn't have drums, so he can start working on the drums. And we had one that was completely mixed down, which was Adversity, Adversity was the first song that was written for this album. Okay. And that was completely mixed down. So that song is the way that you hear it now is basically the way that it was always intended to be and the way that it was done originally. All of the other songs, which we didn't have all of the songs demoed, it was a little over half, but all of the other songs, the demos were on my computer, but hadn't been mixed down yet because there were still things that we were tweaking. And I don't even still know what happened. My computer did an automatic update, and when it came back on, it said that it was BitLocker encrypted, and I needed to put this. I needed to put in my recovery code that I didn't have because I had never had BitLocker encryption set up. I took it to multiple different like forensic computer people, and nobody could understand how this was even possible. Everybody was so certain that I must have at some point set up BitLocker encryption, which I had absolutely never done. I, you know, talked to all sorts of people. I ended up paying probably like $500, $600, $700 or something like that when it was all said and done. $400 to one guy, and then some other people trying to get this thing figured out, and to get both this back, and then I had about 75,000 words of a novel done that I also didn't have saved. So like I don't know what I was thinking. I had gotten into this habit where I was like every single week it was just like part of my weekly routine to put stuff on these external drives, and I just don't know. I fell out of the habit, and when you fall out of a habit, you just sometimes never go back to it. And I don't know how I messed that up, but yes, we lost all of it. So I guess the answer to the second question is I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I know that like the chorus for some of the songs is the same. I actually have no idea how close some of the songs came out to what they were, because I tried to remember them the best that I could. And so if maybe they were supposed to be better, maybe they were supposed to be worse. I have no idea. But I mean, I feel like, you know, somewhere along the process, Jason was like, you know, it's going to come out when it comes out, and it's going to like be the record that it was supposed to be. And, you know, so it took, I think it was less about what we lost and more about like taking that on the chin and like being able to restart, because it took me a while before
it was
I
a gut
restart.
punch.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It was,
there was probably like a grieving process, right?
Dude.
Oh like, yeah, for sure. And then
where do we go from here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, throwing money at that too. That like felt very stupid. And dude, I I just, yeah, it just, you just feel stupid, right? It's like one of those things like, how could this happen to me? Like, this is like all of this creative work. Like, why would I not do something so simple as to save it to this thing that is literally that I can reach out and touch right now? Like, is so easy to do. So yeah, there's part of that too. Like, you don't really want to tell people, you feel dumb about it, and you're just like, but I mean, it's part of the story of the album. And I believe the album came out when it was supposed to come out, and sounds how it's supposed to sound. And, and now I back everything up about once a week. So
perhaps because of that, though, like we ended up from where we first started planning, like some things came out of it that probably wouldn't have happened. Like you said, some of these songs wouldn't definitely wouldn't exist how they exist now. Some of them, like you said, it might be shells of ideas, like melodies or choruses that here, or drum parts that I remembered or something like that from before, but like they definitely wouldn't exist how they exist now. But we also had things like producer changes or who we wanted to do the album with and stuff like that happen along the way, and also like the amount of time we were going to spend in studio. So like after that is where we really started to run into, I think, trying to remember, because it has been so long ago, like we fell into that kind of bit part recording schedule of like, do a song here, do a song there, do a vocal day here, a drum day here.
Yeah, that was never the plan until this whole thing happened. We were going to try to knock the whole thing out in 2 weeks, the way we've always done
the
it.
traditional, go into a studio and don't come out until the record's done, like kind of a thing. And it was stressful to do it the way we did. In many ways, like scheduling again, like just around our day-to-day lives. And it was stressful in the sense of like, we had, again, luckily to have a label and friends and people around us encouraging us, but like to feel the weight of how long it was taking. But in some ways, I think too, like we got to spend a lot more time with each individual song because of it. Like we would go like the span of a few weeks, and it would be like, all right, now we can move on to this song. All right, now we finished the vocals and guitars and stuff for this song. Now we can move on to this one. And even like with recording drums, like we spent, multiple days. Like there was one day I spent almost on one singular song. And we were able to do that because at this point we were so far along in the process that it wasn't that crazy for us to be like, you know what, screw it. We're going to sit here until we get this right and exactly how we want it. And we're not going to settle for less. We didn't have to rush because we had booked a single week out of a studio or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, there's probably things I wouldn't have tried. I'm sure Evan could say the same, that he wouldn't have tried or written or come up with if we did not have all that time to sit with these songs either too. So, all in all, I think
for sure. Yeah, for
we
sure.
put out
Some
the best album we could.
Yeah, some of the lyrics wouldn't have existed if the album came out a year and a half before it did, because they were from experiences that came after that. I think of like 5 of the songs right off the top of my head.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm not really worried about it. Don't really think about it anymore, other than, I mean, I do think about the book, and how I'm going to respond to that, whether I'm going to do that again. It was meant to be something that was going to go in conjunction with our music. So my gut feeling is that I will eventually get back to it, but it's probably going to take a while.
Yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
That's crazy. It's crazy how God works like that, where like a lot of the experiences that you went through that fueled like the meaning and the lyrics behind like half of the album, like you said, wouldn't have happened if you didn't, if this all didn't happen. And now those songs will probably help minister to people who are going through similar circumstances that way. So really crazy how that like sovereignty works out.
Absolutely. Things get woven together that you could have never imagined, and, work together for the good. And you just have to trust that, there's a lesson to be learned and there is a reason. So yeah, now it's just a footnote, and, we move on.
So I wanted to, I know we've been talking about the album and individual songs, but I'd love to know, like, Sand and Cinder, Tide and Timber. Evan, you've always you've always really related a lot of your lyrics to like nature and scenery and stuff, and then you wrote an entire album based off of that. Is that just something? Are you a big nature person? Is there like a connection to the earth that you have that really like inspires a lot of your writing? Like, what's the overall concept of the writing?
It wasn't intentional. The name came kind of late in the process, but as we were writing it, I just kind of I noticed like lyrically, it just kept coming back to a lot of these like nature themes and
we're big nature people in general.
Yeah,
we do a lot of.
They call me the nature boy. You know, camping guy is one of my alter egos. He comes out sometimes. He carries a hatchet with him at all times. Camping guy carries a hatchet with him at all times. Only eats meats that were cooked on a stick over an open fire, and has an excellent radar for when bears are in close proximity and can actually call to them. So that's
have you ever been to Mount Baker before?
No, that's camping. That was named for camping guy. So yes, of course he discovered it. But no, I mean, seriously, my wife and I like absolutely love hiking. We moved out of our little neighborhood where we were to try to get into as close to the woods as we could afford. And love being outdoors and so I mean, for me, that's like being in creation is so extremely inspiring. And I just, as we were going along, and I just kept realizing like that I had kept bringing up these themes and these images and all of this stuff, and it just seemed like, I don't know, I guess an album to me is more than just a collection of songs, right? It's supposed to be like, there's supposed to be like a through line, whether it's lyrically. I think all my favorite albums growing up, they had a connection, they had a feeling to them where you were listening to a song, you felt like you were listening to a collection of songs. It was meant to be listened to in this order, this feeling captured by all of them, and maybe even like released at certain times of year. Like I have just in my head these albums that I grew up listening to, like this is a summer album, this is a winter album, this is a night drive album, and things like that.
This is a fall album.
This is definitely a fall album.
which is crazy because it should have never come out in the fall.
And then there's
all of the way that these things
Christmas collection, which just gets listened to all year round.
Amen.
It's the only Christmas record that can do that.
It is funny though that it did end up coming out in the fall, because that was never the plan, and like it's so clearly a fall album. And I know there's some people who are probably sitting there like, what is this guy on about? Like, what in the world is he talking about?
Look at the cover image. That's all you need. It's fall.
Right.
It's fall.
So
fall in the Midwest. Now you can fully appreciate it, Sean.
Yeah, I know exactly. I did literally listen to it for the first time in the car driving through like all the fall trees. So it was a pretty cathartic experience.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Man, too good.
Chris, did you have anything?
Not off the top of my head. Sorry.
Not off the top of your head.
What about the bottom of your head? You have.
Yeah. What's your chin say?
Yeah. Have you checked there? It's worth exploring.
This is what the chin says.
We can always go back to all the brilliant questions that were listed in the Facebook.
Oh yes, let's do that. Let's do that. Chris, did you see I posted that in the Facebook?
Oh no, I didn't.
There was a guy who asked one that I was really hoping you would ask. It was something about deciduous.
Yeah, Evan Baker asked
deciduous or non-deciduous.
What was it? What was the question? I would love to
Evan
answer
Baker said, "Can you ask them their top 5 non-fruit-bearing deciduous trees are?"
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so oak, maple, hickory, birch, walnut. Now, 1 second. I know for a fact that there is somebody who works for the U.S. Department of Forestry Services listening to this podcast right now, and they are going to be punching their car stereo speakers saying, that moron, a walnut is technically a fruit. So that would not be considered a non-fruit bearing deciduous tree. However, a walnut is a seed. A walnut is technically a seed. It is not a fruit. Who has ever in their life looked at a walnut and thought, oh, that looks like a nice juicy fruit, a piece of citrus, an apple. So I'll hear none of it. So again, for those of you keeping score at home, top 5 non-fruit bearing deciduous trees: oak, maple, hickory, birch, and walnut, because a walnut is not a fruit. So I kind of feel like I'm doing your guys' job for you at this point, but if you have any other, is anything else you really, if you want to talk about coniferous trees next, I'm here for it. So
is this your brother asking about the big rig trucks?
it couldn't possibly be.
There's a
What was the
spicy
question?
one from Joe sitting there.
I know. Joe asked if you are, essentially, he asked if you would ever tour with some of the bands you were talking about in Moonlight.
I don't think they wouldn't tour with us, so I don't know that matters. We've had exactly like 2 bands ever ask to go on. Well, 3. We've had like 3 bands ever asked if we want to go on tour with them. So it's probably,
and none of them were any of those bands. If they did, hypothetically speaking, Joe, if they did, I don't know. It would be.
Well, I think what we would really we'd have to send them back a questionnaire, and we'd need to know a little bit about their favorite botanical, preferences. I'd need to know about their favorite conifers, their favorite deciduous non-fruit bearing trees. And the reason that I want to ask them about the non-fruit bearing trees is because the fruit bearing ones are really easy. You just go to your favorite fruits, and then the tree that bears that fruit is clearly your favorite fruit bearing deciduous tree. So people that's like, forgive the pun, that's like low hanging fruit. Like it's not a super intellectual conversation. Where we really get into the nitty gritty is when we talk about the non-fruit bearing deciduous trees. So
but if they don't,
that too, man, they're just trying to get us to start some beef with people in the industry, huh?
They are, man. I posted somebody posted about this particular band, and I won't say their name. And I just did like the most harmless little comment where I just mentioned a personal experience that I had with that particular band.
This before the interview.
Where they asked for not the general population like food area, but the
this is the exact one I was gonna say.
Yes, specifically the artist hospitality area where the artists were going to be fed. They felt themselves to be so far above every other artist on the festival that they asked for the entire tent to be cleared out so that they could eat their meal in solitude. And all I did was just put a 1-sentence anecdote about that experience. And the next time I went back to that thread, there was like 57 comments about all sorts of other stuff that I was like, oh, okay. So I think I'm probably gonna
hypothetically speaking, if that band asked us to go on tour, I don't know if there's enough money.
I would ask them if we're allowed to eat. If we're allowed to eat with them,
that would
be my question. Like, do we have to leave the room when you guys like? Are you?
No.
And honestly, I don't think
the room. We would have to leave the venue.
Here's my theory. Because what was posed to me, I was like, look, these guys are so famous that it would be like this. It wouldn't even be fair because they'd just be trying to like eat a hot dog, and people are just, all up in their business, wanted to ask them questions, trying to like slip them demos, things like that. And that's viable. If that is the
Evan, you got to think there multiple tour buses that were sitting 100 yards away were way too cramped for them to take their dinner back to. It's a good theory, Jesse. It's a good theory, but
they were storing all of their giant speaker systems and lights in there for their tour.
Yeah, they have a crew in there, Jesse.
Exactly. Right. So I've gotten to the bottom. I've been reading. I don't know if you can see back here, but I have this whole section of Agatha Christie novels. I've been reading a lot of mysteries, and I've gotten to the bottom of this. I know what the reason is. Have you ever seen a picture of yourself mid chew, like eating something, like you got like a burger and you're like like this, like going, you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen a picture of yourself doing that?
Yes.
Were you particularly happy with that photo? Like, did that make you look real good? No. So
Here's the thing: we intentionally put those in our music videos.
Well,
that's why you don't get asked out.
So this is the reason. You got to clear that tent because that nobody wants that to pop up on Instagram. It's like, here's a shot I took of, not going to say the name. Just chowing.
You guys are getting us close. I'm about to just say screw it.
I can promise you they are not listening to this podcast.
They're not listening to this podcast, and in fact have never heard of us and don't know who we are.
That is true as well.
But anyways, no,
we don't. I'm gonna go clip this up and post it right.
I was gonna say I can bleep this out so nobody hears it, but
no, it's fine. Listen,
I was gonna make a reference, but I was gonna bleep it.
We're gonna become the new Trapped of the Christian scene.
You're actually good though.
Our Twitter game is way too soft for that, Jesse. We forgot that we had Twitter for like 2 years. There's no way we could ever.
We did. No, not only that, but we got on the last record, we got so much free publicity from the biggest music outlets in the industry because our album charted right beneath Trap's album that came out that same week.
Did it?
And so people were like Rock Sound, like all these massive publications were posting these articles. Metal Injection, I think, was one of them. We're posting all these massive articles about Trap didn't even make the top 10. Like they didn't even chart in the top 10, and they were at like 12, and we were 13. And
no, it was lower than that. It was these clickbait articles like, look at how bad Trapped album has bombed, and in the screenshot they couldn't do us the service of clipping our name out. It had to be Trapped and then American Arson right below them. Like, look at how far Trapped
is. It was the
fallen.
Hard Rock chart, which we got in the top 15, and we felt like incredible about that. It was the one. It wasn't like the top 100 chart, like the main the total every artist cumulative.
Yeah,
chart.
not the one Rihanna's on or whatever.
Yeah. It was the more. We are opening for Taylor Swift now. It was the one that was the specialized heavy music one, and we were still stoked. We were like, a top 15 on any chart, that's insane. And then that, and we were like, oh,
yeah. Life has a way of humbling you like that sometimes. And our most our celebratory moment was their infinite sadness, embarrassing pain moment. So. But hey, it was kind of funny.
Even through that, being listed below Trapped, losing your record on your computer, you guys were headstrong.
Oh, man. All right.
I'm going to do it for
me. It's been great. 41 minutes. I feel like we got some quality stuff there.
Yeah, between the deciduous trees.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. I got one more question. We're flipping the script for a minute.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay. I love when this happens.
You go totally unrelated. You go into a gas station. You're on a road trip. For us, it would be, we're on tour, whatever. We've gotten asked this same question before. You go into a gas station. You're picking a drink and a snack. What are your go-to?
Drinking the snack.
I don't know if I have many options since I got diagnosed with celiac this year. Going into a gas station, but
let's say you don't have celiac.
No, there is things I can get.
Walnuts, are those fruit?
Yeah, walnuts.
Is that a fruit, Evan?
I'm shaking my fist at you. U.S. Department of Forestry Services has clearly propagandized this show. Can't believe we've been sucked into this. This was a setup all along.
Well, to answer your question, I would probably get M&Ms or / just the standard milk chocolate ones, or the peanut M&Ms. And then as far as a drink goes, I would get iced tea, like Nestea or whatever the other brand is. That's
solid.
That's the same thing, but yeah, iced tea and M&Ms. That's my go-to. I would probably say
peanut M&Ms are a top one for me.
Because I'm not allowed to have Smarties. I can have peanut or M&Ms, but I can't have Smarties. Oh, wait. Hold on. You guys don't have Smarties. I forgot.
Yes, we do.
Wait, but is it the same
We have
Smarties? I feel like...
They're called
Our
Smarties.
Smarties are these bad, chalky little pastel.
Yeah, no. So for us in Canada,
No,
those
are
are called Rockets.
Okay.
Our Smarties are very similar to like the milk
Sweet
chocolate
Tarts?
M&Ms, but they're like
Oh.
even smaller. But they're almost the same thing, but we have both. But your guys' Smarties are called Rockets here, where it's like, the little chalky things that come in a little tube.
Yeah, those
You
are
crush them and pretend to smoke them.
that's the kind of stuff that Sweetwater's been sending me for the last 13 years.
Oh man, let's see. My gas station on a road trip. With food, I'm going with like a meat stick of any kind, whatever the biggest meat stick they've got. I'm going with that, or jerky if I feel like spending $10 on 3 bites. But and then my drink, I love a good Arnold Palmer.
Oh yeah, Arnold Palmers are great.
I've never even heard of that.
What?
Oh,
Lemonade and iced tea, dude. What?
I mean, that sounds good. I've never heard of.
Yeah,
it's called an Arnold
they don't,
Palmer.
They don't have that in Canada because it would instantly freeze. So they only have.
I mean,
Tim
it's
Hortons
iced tea,
coffee.
right?
Yeah, they only have Tim Hortons coffee. That by the time they have to make it like 167 degrees because the time they hold it out the window to you, it's already frozen. You can like just
When you go to
slam
Tim
it
Hortons
really,
here,
really
it just
fast.
burns your mouth every time.
That's the thing. So whenever I would get, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'd get tea at Tim Hortons. I would, no joke, every time I'd get tea there, pull open the lid, and I would let it sit for 20 minutes before I would even take a sip because it's so scalding hot. I would burn my mouth every time.
It's not worth it
So,
at that point. Couldn't you just
15 to
walk
20
outside
minutes,
into the
like-
Canadian air and just grab a scoop of snow and dip it in there and cool it down?
I live in the California of Canada, which is literally just above California. Imagine Seattle.
Okay.
That's where I.
Are you in Vancouver?
Vancouver Island, so just over it.
Oh, awesome.
But
He's telling you he's a communist.
come visit because we got lots of hiking trails and mountains, and like our whole island is literally a forest. So,
Dude, I watched that show Alone that was shot on
I
Vancouver.
love that show.
Saw a whole bunch of grown men absolutely lose their minds. So I might pass, but no, it looks absolutely beautiful. But it seems like it never stops raining. Like, like it's just always wet.
we actually the last number of summers we've been like low key drought weather.
Wow.
It's raining a lot now, but if you come between like May and September, you probably won't hit any rain.
Wow.
And that's why we have
Crazy.
a crazy amount of forest fires recently.
Well,
Where they call
U.S.
in
Department of Forestry Services is not that's out of their jurisdiction. So
all right, Sean, where do you want to go?
I would love to.
I'm sorry that we've totally derailed this interview.
No, this is awesome.
I love this.
Yeah, this is great. While we still have you guys, as the first time I'm listening to this, Adversity definitely stuck out as my favorite track, and I knew I had to talk to you guys about it. The lyrics on it just are so deep and just so vulnerable and honest. I'd love to just hear like from front to back, like what is that song about? What inspired? Because obviously it sounds like Evan, you really you went through it, and I'm not sure what that was, but I would just love to hear the story behind that track.
Yeah. Well, this one I think started with like the concept. I knew I wanted to write the concept, and there was like a bunch of different ideas for verses because there was only going to be a couple of verses. And so like, I don't know. I hope that people listening to the song don't go, oh, wow, those two verses, like those are really the two worst things that have ever happened to you. It's like, it's like, this is the concept for the song. And I wanted to relate it back to things that have happened throughout my music career. So the beginning of the song where it says 15 years ago, you have to remember that that was the very first song written for the album. So we're actually like 17 years ago now. So I know there's people that were fans of my old band, Good Luck Varsity. This actually predates that band. It's a different band that I was in when I was younger with my brother. And yeah, I mean, the first verse is basically what it sounds like. We were at the end of a tour. We're about 6 hours from home. Finally ran out of money. It had been a terrible, terrible tour. Lots of canceled shows, breakdowns, basically everything bad that can happen in a tour. Breakdowns in the relationship. It was pretty clear that the band wasn't going to last. We kind of had a faction of like a fracture in the band where there was like a faction over here and a faction over here, and it just obviously wasn't going to work. And we got to a point where like we couldn't get home, and like 3 of the guys were just like, I don't care if we can't get home. I'm not sinking any more money into this tour, to the point where my brother and I were literally walking around like in a gas station, like trying to pawn off like Subway gift cards that we had a little bit of money left on to try to get home. And then when we did get home, I don't know why, but for some reason we all like, we scheduled a band practice for like 2 days later. Like we were gonna, I think it was maybe supposed to be like a meeting or something. We were gonna sort this whole thing out, right? We were gonna like put a Band-Aid on it, make it better. And me and my brother showed up, and they had like just canceled it, but didn't tell us. And we literally ended up sitting on the curb, just like the song says. So, and that was my first time of like where I really felt like adversity in music, because I had been playing music at that point for probably like 7 or 8 years. But I kind of always knew like those early bands, you're a young teenager, like things go wrong. It's funny. You know, my parents had to drive and my dad had to like drive across the state and put a new transmission in our van once. And it was like, you know, there's like little things like that. You're still in high school, you know, you're playing like $150 like Squire guitar. Like, you know, things are going to break, things are going to go wrong. You're going to like fall on your face and stuff, but none of it is really that big of a deal. But this was a band that I had like, I was trying to choose between whether to like stay in school or like, you know, go full time with this band. I really thought it was going to work out, and it didn't. So that was the first time I remember like really, really falling on my face. And then, so I wanted to do something from like the past. And then in the second verse, I wanted to do something from the present. And as Jesse can probably attest to, there was lots of stuff to choose from for the American Arson days. Over the last decade, we've had a lot of, you know, a lot of setbacks and stuff, but there was just one that just kept sticking in my head as I was writing the song. It was like the lyrics just kind of like kept coming back to me when I would try to take it in a different direction or try to write about something else. And that was this time where, for people who don't know, we started the band, put out, I started as a solo project, and Jesse came in about a year later and
then put out 753 EPs.
Yeah, a lot of EPs. So I didn't know when I started the band. I was like having trouble figuring out like what really the sound should be like. I knew we wanted to be a 2-piece, but I was doing a lot of live looping using like looper pedal and stuff. That was like our main thing then. We didn't use like any synths or strings or keyboards or anything. And so my idea was that I was going to put out these 3-4 song EPs that were all going to be lyrically related, but totally different styles. So the first one was kind of like heavy, but then it also had some just like completely like just really sad, like slow stuff on it. Then the second one was all acoustic and probably like the most depressing music that we've ever put out. And then the third one was the closest that you would find to like what our sound is now, or
which I love, you know, that EP, by the way.
Whatever,
is that the blue
so
one?
whatever genre you think we are, it kind
one.
of started to come together. Then yeah, the red one, the Blood and the Bones was the third one. So it was really it was funny because it was like a real-time experiment, like going through putting out these EPs, trying to decide like what kind of band are we going to be. And and by the time we got to the Blood and the Bones, Jesse was in the band, and so then it really kind of it felt like this is what American Arson is going to be. And since that, which seems like we've just kind of like grown with that one. But the one before that was this one called The Seeds in the Soil, which was all stripped back and acoustic. And there's a song on there called Fingerprints where I kind of, it's a metaphor. My faith journey is a metaphor for somebody who's just committed murder and is like sitting in his basement feeling guilty about it and writing this song about it. And obviously that hits pretty hard, and somehow it made it to this Christian radio station, and it was not in their rotation. It was on some sort of a feature where it was like something or kill it, like they're like love it or kill it or something, like whatever the like don't like it is was really aggressive. It was like kill it or burn it or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. So, and I was not aware, like I didn't send this to them. I didn't ask for this. It was just like I put this out into the universe. It was like the second thing that I did, just like trying to, you know, figure out like who I was as an artist at the time. So DJ throws this thing on, which thanks to that guy, I guess I appreciate it. And I get tagged on Facebook like that. Hey, it's on this thing, like love it or, you know, kill it with fire or whatever it was. I don't know what it was. It wasn't quite that aggressive, but it was bad. It was like whatever the second option. I remember thinking like, oh, that's kind of like, yikes, I don't know if I want to be in this. And dude, it was like 5 pages of comments of people like, get this off. Like, I mean, I screenshotted everything and saved it like for motivation. It was like, dude, this guy's voice is broken. Like, oh my gosh, these lyrics are brutal. And it was just like over and over and over. It's like, please make it stop. Please make it stop. Just like, I mean, I don't even know how many comments I don't know why I did this, but I screenshotted all of them and I just posted them to my personal Facebook. And I was just like, here's these things. So like, it wasn't like a go get them thing to my friends or anything like that. And like most of my friends at that point, I don't even think knew that I was still making music because Good Luck Varsity had ended. And I got a lot of support back from that, but it was not quite enough to outweigh just like the brutality of something. I don't know. I just think maybe it never occurred to these people that like the person who was on the other end of that was going to see all of the stuff that they were saying. Mm-hmm. And the DJ actually had reached out to me like privately and was like, yo, I'm really sorry. Like, just so you know, like people like the full band stuff that you'd done before, like people kind of like that, but I don't know what it was about this that didn't resonate. But the thing for me that I was upset about wasn't that they didn't like the song. It was that it was like this station that was like purported to be a Christian station. And like, ostensibly this is supposed to be like a safe place for us to like share a piece of like heartfelt worship. And it was just all of these people who are like supposed to be my brothers and sisters in Christ just tearing me apart. And not like, I don't like this, let's move on to the next. It was just like the worst. Like it still comes up in my time hop once a year because I still have it saved. And I remember thinking like, I never thought until that moment that there would be a point in my life until like my hands became arthritic and didn't work anymore that I would stop playing music. And like that moment I was like, what am I doing? Like this music, like I can understand like if the world doesn't understand this, but like these are supposed to be my people and they don't have to like the music. Like that's totally fine. Like, dude, the whole song, like I say in the song, like I know my voice isn't pretty when I'm singing from my soul, right? I get that. I know I don't sound like, you know, the lead singer from Dayseeker, Rory, who has the voice of an angel. I get that.
He does.
But man, that was just like it was such a kick. And so the last line right before he goes into the chorus, that little pre-chorus line is like, it burned, but I learned. And like, man, I just feel like those moments where we feel like they're so low and they're so demotivating and we feel really let down by the people around us. Like there's just something about those moments that if you can respond to those with some grit and a little bit of perseverance, that you look back on those and they become like these defining moments for you. And they're things that stick with you, not in a negative way, but in a way where you're like, I got past that and like, look where we are now. And so for me, yeah, there's like worse things that have happened to other people and to our band and stuff, but that one had to go into the song. It had to be like, so I don't know. We got a lot, like that was the line that we got a lot of people asking us questions about right off the bat when the album came out, and like not trying to diss like Christian radio stations or anything like that. Like we're so grateful to everybody who's played our stuff. It was about a very specific situation that happened one time, and that I feel like it was like when it says like douse me in gasoline, like that's fine because that's just going to give me fuel, right? That's what that line was. I mean, I could have taken it or leave it at that point. Like I said, Jesse wasn't in the band yet. It was just me, nobody was going to care if I stopped doing this thing. I wouldn't have been letting anybody down because I didn't have a bandmate. I was hiring a drummer at the time, and there wasn't even a drummer on this album, on the acoustic album. So I could have just gone quietly into the night, and that would have been the end of it, and it would have been fine. And all of those people who thought that they like were being witty or funny by, you know, tearing somebody else's thing down, they don't even realize that, like, dude, you made this album, you made Sand and Cinder, Tide and Timber, like when you did that. And it's just one of those examples of like something that was meant for evil, and God just took it and was like,
yeah,
nope,
absolutely,
this thing's mine, this is going to be fuel.
All that to say, I just want to like point that back at like you guys too, and say like what you guys do for the community, like with this podcast, with KingdomCore and everything like that. Like, it is so important, because growing up, like, part of what drew me to heavier music in general was because, you know, whether it was, you know, more on the hardcore end of things or metal or punk and stuff, was because it felt like it was people that were being honest, like like, you know, the whole life ain't all sunshine and rainbows kind of thing, like worship music, like the more like lighter side of Christian music and all that has its place, super important place, and it's meaningful in its own right. But there was a heavier community that I found that for someone like me who grew up, like, you know, dealing with my emotions in a different way and struggling with things like depression or even just adversity in that aspect of like people trying to break you down, for those times where life isn't easy, it is hard, you do just want to give up, like none of that music was getting played on you know, your average, you know, CCM station and stuff like that. And again, that's not to knock them, but for the outlets, like back in the day, like I used to subscribe to HM magazine and now they're around in a different entity kind of on social media and stuff, but now we have like you guys and the KingdomCore community and this podcast and, you know, a couple other outlets that really do push that stuff out there that would play. Yes, I love that so much. That is amazing.
I just have these 4 from 10 years ago, but
that are willing to play a hypothetical Fingerprints on, you know, the station, or promote it and promote that song or the album and say like, here is this song, here's this lyrical content, this is the message for what it is, it's real, it's raw, it's there, and like, what can you take from that? And not everybody's going to like it. We're not going to be everybody's cup of tea musically or lyrically, and there's going to be other bands that people love and hate and stuff like that stylistically, but it's so important for us, not just from a success standpoint, but just from feeling the love, even on our end, of like, there's a community out there that hears these things we're putting out into the universe and can take some meaning from them. Like, we hope, you know, they can. And then hopefully, and just seeing like the comments back, or you guys, you know, catching those little references or hearing the meaning behind those songs, it means a lot to us. And I'm sure to Evan would say something of a similar ilk, and it means a lot to us on the other end of like, hey, like, there is this community that latches onto this and kind of walks this journey with us. So we're thankful for that, really. And, you know, for every, you know, random, you know, radio station community that booted a song off the air, you know, intentionally or unintentionally, there's another community like this that takes it and embraces it and loves it to its fullest. So it's it makes these kinds of interactions and these kinds of communities and the Facedown family on Facebook and all that kind of stuff like that much more meaningful. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, honestly, I'm so glad, Evan, that you kept going because, like, I didn't know about you guys until Facedown signed you. Like, that announcement post was when I discovered you guys. And
same.
I think, like, without a line in the sand and now Sand and Cinder, Tide and Timber, like, I don't know, I feel like there's like a hole that would be in this community of like a type of music that we need, but even a message and like something that can resonate with people and encourage people. And just even purely from a music standpoint, like when I was saying earlier, the Heat trilogy being kind of my favorite set of songs, like I'm not even kidding. Goodbye, the chorus of Goodbye literally made me lose a whole night of sleep, like 2 or 3 nights after it came out. Like I had listened to it a couple times. It was stuck in my head and I could not
Did you
sleep.
tag us in something or like post something?
I think I might have. Like, but I'm
like,
like not even kidding. It was, I could not sleep that night. It was just constantly in my head and I couldn't stop. It was like, it's very rare that songs do that to me. But
send us an invoice for 8 hours of work, whatever. Hey man, that wasn't cool.
You guys, like, honestly, just keep doing what you guys are doing. And I think 100%. Honestly, there's a lot of people that are being impacted. And I personally appreciate the moments of boldness in your guys' lyrics. Like it's like Christian stuff, but like it can encourage believers and unbelievers, I think, in a lot of it, but it's not cheesy and it's not, where like it is just very life-giving, I think, at a lot of times. So thank you guys for this album, continuing through all the hard stuff to make it happen. Because I think we'll look back on it even for years to come from now and be like, there's life-giving messages throughout this record. So thank you.
Well, thank you guys. That means a lot.
Well,
seriously.
Chris, I know you're a little farther away, but Sean, you now have no excuse to not come to the Christmas show this year.
Go for me,
True,
Sean.
man.
Where is it?
Just outside Detroit. Yeah.
It's only a few hours away.
All right.
It's like
You don't even have to
halfway.
I'll see if I
between
want to go
Detroit
get
and Ann
shot.
Arbor. No, it's not in Detroit.
Wow.
It's in a suburb that is dead halfway between Detroit and Ann Arbor.
Okay,
And,
gotcha.
And
I'll see what I
nobody's
can
getting
do. I'll see what I can do.
We'll only be slightly disappointed.
Yeah.
All right.
We had a guy today from Florida tell us he was coming. So we usually try to
that's awesome.
do a little roundup of the different states that people come from. But yeah, if anybody's in the Midwest or anywhere close, once a year we do a show right around Christmas time. It's a free show.
Totally free.
It's our Christmas gift to our fans and our friends, and we like to do it every year. This will be the 20th annual one. Obviously, American Arson hasn't been around for 20 years, so it hasn't been American Arson for 20 years as previous bands of mine before that. But it's always free. It's always all ages. We play a little bit longer set. And this year we're playing the album
in full.
No way. Okay.
They're playing it front to back, and then some other stuff as well. So. But yeah, it's free. So yeah, if you have to travel a little ways, at least like whatever money you spend on gas, you don't have to spend on tickets. And we'd love to.
We're doing a Celine Dion cover to kick things off.
My heart.
We're not changing the style at all. Not like a Celine Goes Punk version. We're
we've
singing.
hired a string quartet, and
can you give us a sneak preview right now?
Take it away.
I'll mix it.
No, we don't.
I'll have the audio. I can throw it in my DAW and mix it up. And
we don't want your listeners to leave 30 comments about how they want to kill it with fire. And
I'm pretty sure, though, if they've made it this far in the podcast, they're not those people.
That's true. Honestly, if they got through my non-deciduous trees rant, then
if they made it through that, they're true fans.
Yeah. If you're still with us, we'll give you free stuff at this point. We'll give you free merch.
Oh man! Well, there will be something. There will be some treats. We're playing the album in full. We got a few other
the
surprises
Sweetwater candy.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a Sweetwater candy toss from the stage. Please check expiration dates before you.
Yeah, you just go up on stage and you're like, whoosh, you just like throw them all.
We hired our friend Jared that works at Sweetwater to come bring authentic Sweetwater candy, not just your typical store-bought Laffy Taffies, but
fresh water
from the Sweetwater factory. They are. He's gonna come on stage and toss them out, preferably during Hammer and Gavel when. No one is paying attention whatsoever, and everybody's just going absolute crazy. But no, it'll be fun.
We also stole like 60 or 70 Splenda packets from the local diner, and Jared will be free of charge dumping those into anybody's water bottle. It's the new Sweetwater promotion. So show up, you can get that. And yeah, and there you go. There was another pun to see us out. So